So my name is Stephanie Peach. I'm running in the Republican primary this February 2nd. For the past 2 years, I've been working for State Representative Leah Cole, serving the people of Peabody, and that's what I really love doing. I love my job as a legislative aide, and in November I unfortunately had to leave in order to run my campaign, not allowed to stay at the State House. But I grew up in Peabody. I went K through 12 here at Peabody Schools. My husband also went K through 12 in Peabody Schools, and we got married earlier this year in 2015. I hold my master's degree in public administration from UMass Boston, which I also finished in 2015. It's been a busy year. So we live on Fulton Street in Peabody, and I grew up on Linfield Street with my middle-class family of 6. My parents are both hardworking phone company employees, and my siblings we're spread out through age, but we have stuck through together and worked very hard as a family to all succeed in life. I'm running basically because I love what I did as a legislative aide, serving the people of Peabody, serving the community that has given so much to me. And I want to continue to do that. So I worked one-to-one with constituents to help them with issues that they had. And as a state rep, I feel you have the opportunity to propose policy and influence the legislation and regulations that can make a broad effect for people across the Commonwealth. And I think we need a lot of reforms on Beacon Hill. We as taxpayers cannot afford more tax increases as the people on Beacon Hill continue to fund their pet projects. And the people of Peabody, I'm a homeowner here. My property taxes have gone up. I understand how hard that is every year to pay those taxes and to watch them go up and not to really see a return on your investment. So if you elect me to this House of Representatives, I'll be there fighting for you every single day. I'll be very accessible to you as I have been for the past 2 years. And you know that I won't be voting for any tax increases. I'll be working hard to bring more money back to our city to make Peabody the best city that it can be. As I mentioned before, for the past 2 years, I've been serving the people of Peabody as Representative Leah Cole's legislative aide. And growing up in this community and being involved in this community and having a passion for public service, this is what I've always wanted to do. Since I was little, I told my parents, I want to be a senator. And my parents are not political at all, so I'm not really sure where I got it from. And my mom's still kind of confused, but this is a love that I have. I loved going to the State House every day and taking those phone calls from citizens and helping them through whatever it was, whether they had a concern with a bill that was put forward or they themselves, they didn't know where they were going to get their money for rent the next month, or they were going to, how to heat their house in the wintertime. That's what I love to do. I think it's a very necessary element of government and of public service. And as Councilor Walsh said, we do need to have a strong state partnership here in Peabody, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. I've been the one making those phone calls, and I know the people that work in those agencies. They're all people that I work with for the last 2 years. And a lot of people don't realize that the staff does all the legwork at the State House. And having a state representative who was a legislative aide brings you even more service to that office, because you don't just stop being hands-on once you're elected. And I see it with one of the representatives I worked with before was a legislative aide to begin with, and he was very hands-on in his constituent services. And that's how I will continue to be. I'll continue to be hands-on in drafting legislation and working with state agencies, because that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I was sad to leave my job in order to run, but I hope to be back at the State House to continue to work for Peabody. The most important thing a state rep can do is be there for the constituents. You need to be able to get in contact with your state representative, and you need to have strong constituent services. And as I mentioned, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years, over 2 years, because I worked for a different representative before Representative Cole. And I'm known throughout the State House for having strong constituent services, and those services will continue if elected. That is the number one thing that a state rep can do. When people call you people are calling their state rep as a last resort. And you need to be that person that tries to help them and to work with our state agencies in order to help them. And I think that's the number one thing for our state rep. I know that Joyce Spiliotis was known for having great constituent services, and I know her staff members. They're still in the State House, and I've worked with them very closely when I started working for Representative Cole to understand the issues and different constituents who have called them as well, so I can continue on with those cases. And that's something I plan to do. I work very well with the people in Senator Lovely's office, and I think that is the number one thing a state rep can do. I mean, there's obviously voting on legislation and drafting legislation. That's all important, but being there and showing up is the number one most important thing for the job. And if I'm your state rep, you know that I'll be there every day. I'll never miss a vote on Beacon Hill, and I'll be here in Peabody when you need me to be here. And everyone will have a phone number to contact me, and I'm sure I'll have a great staff member who will be there for us as well. So I would say that my sense of commitment is the best quality I have to assure you that you won't get any lip service with me. Again, I've been doing this, and I've been the one answering the phone in Boston when you've called, and I've solved your problems if I could. If you had an issue, if you had a concern about legislation, I was the one relaying those to the representative, and that's the way that Leah Cole operated in her position, and I admire that from her. She saw those votes, she heard from the people, and she voted the way the people wanted her to vote. And it's not always going to satisfy the people. You can never make everybody happy, but I see what happens up on Beacon Hill, and under our supermajority that we have, Democrats vote with the speaker, and Republicans are more free to vote for what's best for their district. And I've seen that time and time again. We have great leadership on Beacon Hill in the minority party that understands that you need to do what's best for your district, and that's not necessarily the way the Democratic Party operates up there. So as a Republican on Beacon Hill, I can assure you that I will fight for every dollar that Peabody can get, and I will be doing what the people of Peabody want, regardless of what the party wants me to do. As I mentioned, my style would be very hands-on. This is the part of the job that I love the most. I am a policy nerd, and I like to read legislation, but this was the best part of my day, was being able to help people. And Tom's right, you can't always help people, and that's hard. But some examples of some constituent cases are really quick. Some people call because they have an issue with unemployment, collecting their unemployment insurance. And that's a phone call to, they have a whole constituent service agency over in unemployment, but that might be a one-day issue, and you close that case and you're done. But I had when they went toll-free on the Tobin Bridge and they went cashless, a lot of people had some problems, and they were tossing the bill to the side. I had one woman who called devastated because she owed the state almost $4,000, and her actual tolls were $95. So she called because she got the bill in the mail. She wasn't really sure what it was. She is a single mother and has very limited income, and like I remember my parents doing, she put the bill in a drawer and she was going to pay it when she had the money to pay it. And that's something I remember growing up. You have to decide what you can afford to pay this month and what you can't. Had she known that the fees were going to just be incredibly ridiculous and accumulate to $4,000, I'm sure she would have paid it sooner. But that's something that took months and months in order to get back down to the original price. And that was something I advocated to the Secretary of Transportation about. And many other people across the state were having the same issues. And us as staffers, legislative aides, we got together, we got our bosses on board, we sent a letter to the secretary, we sent a letter to the governor, and they forgave everyone's fees that were outstanding. And that's something that we did collectively, Democrats and Republicans, because that was an issue facing all of our constituents who commute into the city. And that was months long, so you have to continue to follow up with that person, and that's what I did. So You're wondering if you're going to get me on the phone when you call if I'm sitting at my desk. Yes, a lot of this job is not sitting at your desk. You're in the chamber a lot when we're in session. You're in committee hearings when there's committee hearings, or you're in Peabody for some type of event. I went to a lot of events in the city as an aide. We do a lot of things in the city, especially with this upcoming year, the 100th anniversary of the city. So I'm sure there'll be a lot going on in the city where you're here, but there's multiple phone numbers to access me, and I'll make sure that everyone has those if elected.
What issues have you heard?
So the biggest issue that I hear that really concerns me is our population, our elder population, they're getting forced out of their homes because our property taxes are going up and their incomes aren't going anywhere. People are losing their health insurance after retirement, and they're paying $400 a month to the Health Connector in order for a basic insurance plan, and they're paying for Medicare, and they're paying taxes on their Social Security, and that's a big issue. And then, something that I heard working in the State House is really about housing. Someone mentioned earlier about the wait list at the Housing Authority, and you can't move people up the list. There was a time, and the time is over. You can't move people up. The wait list is 10 years long now here in Peabody, and that's heartbreaking for everyone who needs to get on that list. And I've worked with different nonprofits and different agencies in the state to start thinking of new ideas, innovative ideas, to not only develop more affordable housing in our area, but to allow people who are in public housing or in affordable housing to save enough money to work hard so that they can transition into private housing. And that's one of the biggest issues I hear, along with the elder population. Their health care costs are rising, their income is staying the same, and their property taxes are going up. And in order to combat that, we need to bring more money back from the state. In order to get more money from the state, we need to stop our wasteful spending at the state. And there's countless stories that come out every week on the news about fraudulent spending in different state agencies, and we're just not doing the people justice with the way we handle their money on Beacon Hill. I just want to ask you to please send me back to Beacon Hill to not only continue the great constituent services that the city's been receiving, but to work hard on reform in our state government so that our tax dollars work hard for us. We're bringing more money back to our city, and we see the positive changes that we need to be seeing in Peabody. Like I mentioned tonight, I've been doing this. I know the people in the State House. I know the people in our state agencies. I've worked with them for over 2 years, and I'd love to continue to serve the people of Peabody, so please consider me for your vote on February 2nd. Thank you.